Hey everybody, so here's a little update on the BYEASY Card Reader situation, dare I call it that. So in the previous video, it was a quick video discussing how the new BYEASY Card Reader that's in the Mid-Tower Deluxe, the card reader itself only operates at USB 2 speeds, whereas the hub operates at USB 3 speeds. Yet, the BYEASY card reader that's in the PortaCube system, which was the first one I ever bought, not only does the hub operate at USB 3.0 speeds, the card reader does too. So with it being Amazon Prime Day, I decided, what the heck, let's pick up another one of these because they had it on sale even cheaper than normal price. Which in a way I feel like they're already overpriced to begin with. So I'm unboxing this on camera for obvious reasons. That way, if I ever see the dud, when it's actually physically damaged, I have the proof right here. But this one, it appears to be everything. I mean, everything's in the box. Got the USB internal cable. Got this SATA Y cable. You don't want to use the SATA cable on this, unfortunately, due to a design flaw. The engineers over at BYEASY, or whoever designed this product, apparently didn't get the memo that there are two different 5-volt supplies in a computer, or at least in a desktop PC. You got your 5-volt rail and you got your 5-volt standby rail, and it's not a good idea to bridge them together. So here is the card reader itself. I just want to take a quick look at this product. I'm really curious because the issue at hand was the very first one. The card reader acted as an Apple SD reader USB device, whereas the second one I got, the second one that was not broken, physically damaged, the second one, it showed up to Windows as a generic mass storage class USB device. And the SD reader and the micro SD reader operated as separate drives. So what we're going to do is, I'm not going to pop this one into Mid-Tower Deluxe in this video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the Windows 11 test rig, because it has a motherboard in it that has USB 3 ports on it on the inside for this style connection. So again, as I mentioned, we'll get that computer out, plug it up, pop this in it, and we'll see what we have. Now, before I do that, I just want to touch on something here. So if you go back and look at this video, which I'll put a card in the corner, you'll see all the defects that were present with that other BYEASY card reader. So I purchased one for the PortaCube back in 2022, last year. And then recently I purchased one for the Mid-Tower Deluxe. That one arrived DOA, damaged. So I returned it to Amazon for replacement. Replacement arrived the next day. That's the one I installed in the Mid-Tower Deluxe. But that one that arrived damaged, I mean, you had a capacitor broken off. Had a surface mount capacitor broken off. Poor soldering all throughout. In a way, I wish I'd have contacted Amazon, because I had a feeling if I'd have, in hindsight, if I'd have contacted Amazon and explained to them saying, hey, I work on electronics, I could probably repair this. I don't want to see it get just thrown in the trash. They probably would have still sent me a replacement and let me keep the original. But anyway, let's get that system out and plug this in and see how it acts. Okay, so I got the Windows 11 test rig plugged up, ready to go. And I had this BYEASY reader / hub plugged in. So let's go ahead and start this thing up and we'll see what we have here. Okay, so here we are at the desktop. It's been a minute since I've actually ran this thing, so let us see might take a moment here. Alright, there's a mouse. Okay. First, let's see what we actually have here. I'm thinking it's the same blasted mass storage class device. Yeah, we shall see here. Yep, generic mass storage class USB device. Now these others down here are actually a different card reader that I have plugged into the system. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get me an SD card that has some stuff on it. Not sure if I have a card with stuff on it at the moment, but I can definitely fix that. We'll put some files on it and see how long it takes to read. Okay, so I've loaded up this SanDisk Ultra 16 gig card with a couple of files. I think it's like 4 or 6 gigabytes or so total. So I'm going to insert this into the SD reader. And let's just see what we get. Alright, so these files are okay, 4 gigabytes in size. We're going to paste them on the desktop. I should note that this system has a solid state drive. This stupid Windows 11 context menu. Ha! This one is moving along at 88 megabytes per second. Interesting. Alright, so going to Task Manager, you can see. Yeah, we are actually booking right along here. This is what I was expecting from this card reader. This is what the PortaCube does. Yeah, we're moving right along at almost 90 megabytes per second there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go test the Tower Lux again. So we're going to take this same card, pop it into the Tower Lux, and give it a shot. Okay, so I'm going to pop this same card into Tower Lux, and let's do a copy and paste, just like we did previously. And we're doing a little better. Still not quite 80, but doing a little better. I should note we are actually copying to a hard disk this time, so let's just stop it. And let's locate our SSD. And let's just paste them right here. So we're going at about 60 megabytes per second. 62, 63. Alright, I'm going to stop it. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is let's restart our system. Let's just give this thing a restart. And we'll try this test again. This will rule out if it's the system or if it's the card reader. I mean, in a previous video I was getting 40 megabytes per second, solid 40. And that made me a little suspicious of perhaps the reader was limiting to USB 2 speeds for some odd reason. Okay, we're back in. So let's go ahead and repeat what we tried previously. We're going to copy these two files and we're going to do a paste on our SSD. And you can see we're capped at 55, 56 megabytes per second. So in Task Manager, you can see it's reporting 98% usage. That being said, my next step, I'm just going to go ahead and cancel that. My next step will be to swap out the card reader. Not physically, I'm not going to change it out tonight, but I'm going to take the side panel off the system and let's just hook up this new replacement card reader to the USB cable and let's see what happens. Okay, so let's take our SD card, let's pop it into this reader here. Kind of hard doing this one-handed. There we are. Okay, so now let's repeat these same steps over again. So like I did before, we're going to reinitialize the copy. Let's do a paste. Okay, so we are running at 60 megabytes per second here, with the card reader that just went at 80 megabytes per second in the other system. Anyways, apparently I messed up a little bit. I kind of jumped the gun just a little bit on that last video. So what I'm going to probably do, I was contemplating just taking the whole video down, but what I'm going to probably end up doing is going back and putting up a new thumbnail for that video, because I don't want to end up bashing the manufacturer over something like that. But they still sent me a badly defective card reader not too long ago, so anyways, so yeah, it's kind of a weird situation. Now I did see a comment from one of the viewers mentioning Terracopy, but I mean, I've never had to use something like that before, because generally, I mean, let's just face it, the read speed when I was importing stuff off that card in the previous video, it was awfully suspicious, because I mean, Task Manager was reporting 100% usage, and it was going right along at 40 megabytes per second. So that was a little suspicious, and I guess because of that, I kind of jumped the gun a little bit. So, anyways, it wasn't a bad thing that I bought this extra card reader, because honestly, the Mid-Tower Black Max is in dire need of a better card reader. It's my parents' computer. It's got a card reader from a freaking HP system in it, from, geez, the 2000s. Somehow it manages to actually support SD high capacity, but it takes forever to read stuff. And of course, their system does have USB 3 headers on its board, so we'll be using that to upgrade their system pretty soon, I think, and probably upgrading their system to Windows 11 at some point, even though their system does not meet the Microsoft Elite class its requirements on Windows 11. So let me go ahead and disconnect that card reader and reconnect this internal one. See, I was going to have a little bit of a dilemma. Let's say this card reader here was, in fact, the culprit. I can't return it as is, because you can see I have spray painted the front of it to match the case. Of course, I did remove the PCB from the metal frame before I did that. But, so yeah, if it was the case of this card reader being defective, probably what I would have done is I would have taken it out, swapped PCBs over, and returned the other one, because obviously it's haven't been painted, so it could be resold. But anyways, let me go ahead and take that other card reader back out and plug this one back in. Okay, so I got the internal card reader plugged back up. So let's test one thing. So on the previous card reader, or excuse me, the one that's in the PortaCube, its SD slots share a drive letter. But I think on this one, the two slots operate independently of one another. Let's see. Let's pop a micro SD card in here. And let's see what happens. They do in fact operate independently of one another. So that's actually an upgrade. So yeah, that's interesting to know. So the SD slot and the micro SD slot on this are fully independent of each other, and you can use them simultaneously. That's actually quite nice. So I was actually curious about that. So pretty neat there. Now I will say it is a little challenging getting the micro SD card out when you have a full-size SD card in the reader, because there's hardly any room between the two readers, because so essentially it's a multi-sided PCB, and in case you're wondering why the SD card goes in upside down on this reader, that's why. It's because the SD reader is installed on the bottom side of the PCB, whereas the micro SD reader is installed on the top side. Okay, so before I wrap up this video, I figured let's go ahead and test one more thing with this product, since we've seen that they have changed the way the SD readers on this product operate. And of course, now they operate independently. Now let's see if maybe perhaps BYEASY fixed the issue with the SATA connection on this product. So what I'm doing here is I've got this plugged back into this system here, and I got the SATA power connection plugged in as well. We won't even need to start our system for this. We just need to plug it in and see what happens with power. And you can hear the CD drive actually started up. Now if we look here, okay, we don't have lights on, but I did hear the CD drive in this system, which gets fed off of 5 volts through the SATA connector. So we definitely still do not want to use this SATA connector, because as you've seen, this product backfed all the 5 volt components in our computer here from the 5 volt standby rail. And why that is an issue is, well, for one, the 5 volt standby rail is active anytime the power supply is plugged into power. But the other reason is, if you look here at the 5 volt standby capacity of this power supply, now this is an older supply. It is a little more 5 volt heavy than modern PSUs, but it's still a good example. So a modern power supply, we'll say the 5 volt rail is probably 15 to 20 amps, if that. Whereas you can see here on this unit, of course, the 5 volt rail is 25 amps, but our plus 5 volt standby is just 2 amps with a peak of 2.5 amps. So the 5 volt standby rail is not designed to carry a lot of load. It's really only designed to carry a minimum amount of load. So motherboard manufacturers, for I forget how many years now, they have generally powered the USB ports off of the 5 volt standby rail. That way, for example, your keyboard and mouse, if they're USB powered, if they're plugged into the USB port, let's say, for example, if you have your system configured to where you can wake it with a move of the mouse, or excuse me, a click of the mouse, you got to have USB power to those devices during sleep for that to happen. So that's why motherboards, at least newer ones, power the USB ports off the 5-volt standby rail. Now, let's say when a system is up and running, there could be internal circuitry on the motherboard that either switches the USB ports over from 5-volt standby to 5 volts or something else of that nature. But the thing is, when you have this product plugged in, it is obviously backfeeding every 5-volt device in this system off the 5-volt standby rail. So anything that has a red wire going to it, like the motherboard, CD drives, hard drives, SSDs, those items are getting all powered off the 5-volt standby rail when they're not intended to be powered off of that rail. So BYEASY, they really need to fix this. If we want to use the SATA power connection to provide auxiliary power to this, they need to make it where it's required to use this and actually not use 5 volts off of this USB connection to power this product. If they did that, and they included some circuitry here for short circuit protection and stuff like that, which you need on something like this in that case, then that'd be great. But just slapping a SATA connector on there and tying the 5 volts off of this into everything 5 volts on this is just not a good idea. Let's say you have a lot of 5 volt load in your system. You could actually end up burning something up on this board because, let's face it, the traces on this board are probably not designed to carry a whole lot of current. So, yeah, they need to fix that for sure. So yeah, guys, it's not often that I rush upload videos. Usually between the time that I shoot the videos and the time that I actually publish them on YouTube, there's a bit of time I spend. Sometimes I'll vet things out, but in the case where I rush to get something up on the internet, of course, something like this happens. So yeah, what this means, I'm going to go back and change the thumbnail in my previous video, and also note in the description of that video that, hey, there's an update, and also put a card to this video here. So apparently, it's kind of a weird one. The SD reader, for some odd reason, was running at a solid 40 megabytes per second the other night when I was importing cards, and it did this twice, 2 nights in a row, I think, that I was importing cards, and it just seemed awful suspicious. It seemed like it was operating as a USB 2 reader, and the fact that when you look in Device Manager, these new, at least the newer BYEASY reader, registered as 2 separate drive letters and was registered as a generic mass storage class USB device instead of the Apple SD reader device that my original one would show up as. Yeah, and I have to wonder what Apple thought of some company out of China knocking off their SD reader. That's probably what I had to change it. But then again, at the same time, they upgraded their reader to where the SD card and the micro SD card slots operate independent of each other instead of being tied to one drive letter. That's how my previous card reader right here was. For example, it has an SD slot here and a micro SD slot there. You can't use these two at the same time. You have to use them either either use this one or use that one. You can't use them both at the same time. So there you have it. So I guess on a positive note is, of course, you know, I found out for sure that it's not the reader, it's the freaking system or Windows or whatever. I mean, the Windows 11 test rig, which has a heck of a lot slower CPU and just overall setup, I mean, it blasted right along at 90 megabytes per second. And of course, the PortaCube is, dare I call it, a little bit more powerful than the tower looks. I mean, the Ryzen 7 1700X that's in this system is quite dated compared to the Ryzen 5 5600G that's in the PortaCube. So anyway, that wraps up for this video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Hey everybody. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video from Kuku channel. If this is your first time, please subscribe to the channel and be sure to tick the bell so we get notified of new video posts. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, leave a comment, and share this video as well as the channel with your friends and get the word out. Also, I have a second channel, that's CubeComp MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about thunderstorms and weather, cycling, and videos about me personally. Feel free to subscribe over there as well if you like. Again, I really hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for your support.